And I had a double eye socket fracture, at a clash of heads, and the pair of us neither of us played again. So the lad that diving for a ball, I've gone down to pick it up, he's hit me on the side of the head, one of the lads, and it was a big part of who I was, and it felt like it was sort of stripped away in an instant almost. Yeah, it's interesting. Unfortunately, I've lost 3 friends in my life to suicide, which is, it's such a tragic thing. One this year, one when I was back in university, and one sort of in between there, sort of 10, 15 years ago, something in that region. It's
a reassuring thought to me, is that like your life happens for you, not to you, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely, very stoic.
Yeah, so I think it's part of a bigger quote, but I like that part of it. And it's very easy when you have an event like you did, or like I have, to become a victim of it.
It's going to put myself through some mentally challenging times, and allow myself to think, no matter how hard this gets, it's nowhere near as hard as what these people have gone through. And I'm just hoping it'll get somebody, it'll put them through that. When they're having a bad day, they can watch that and go, fucking hell, that's impressive, or that's something to talk about, or that's something I can take my mind off something.
Right. Welcome to Just a Quick Convo. Today we're welcomed by Mike Catris.
Yeah,
nice to meet you. We pretty much met online, to be fair. When I released Just a Quick Convo and sort of shared my injury story, you messaged me, which I really appreciated at the time, just because you explained your story a little bit about retiring from sports due to like injury or health reasons. And to be fair, like I received a lot of messages at the time, and it helped me like feel much less alone, I'll be honest. I really appreciated that. And also you sort of shared with me that you care about mental health quite a lot, and you appreciated that aspect of what I was trying to do as well. Mm-hmm. So in that way, it made sense for me to eventually get you on. Could you just briefly sort of talk about what you told me about your retirement, and then also what you've done since then? Because after doing a bit of research, you do quite a lot of stuff.
Yes. How long have you got?
Go for it.
Yeah, it's a funny one, because obviously I'm a massive Cardiff City fan and Cardiff boy, and saw when you got injured early on in the season, and it was like your breakout sort of season, or potentially your breakout season, and I just felt gutted for you, because it resonated with me in this situation similar to where I was. I was 24, I think. It's a long time ago, 12, 13 years ago. And I was playing sort of professional, semi-professional rugby at the time, and I had a double eye socket fracture, at a clash of heads, and the pair of us neither of us played again. So the lad that diving for a ball, I've gone down to pick it up, he's hit me on the side of the head. I woke up holding the ball with my arm in the air, and he was like fitting on the floor, swallowed his tongue, stretched it off. I got up and carried on playing. I thought, I've got away with this, and that was really early doors when concussion protocols were starting to come into rugby. I know they're starting to come into football now, which is a bit of a laugh for us lot, because we were just getting knocked on the head for fun, and back then it was, how many fingers am I holding up, who are we playing, and you're like, cool, you're fine, carry on. And the next day I woke up, I was like Quasimodo. I had a double eye socket fracture, so what's called a percussion fracture. So he hit me on the corner of my head here, and I actually fractured around my sinus here and here. And the only reason I found out is because I blew my nose. And if you've ever seen MMA, when they blow their nose and they've broken their eye socket, it basically like your ears popped, but it was my eye. So I just went, oh my God, something terrible happened. And so I went to the doctors, and they were like, oh, how many knocks on the head you've had? Because they did a scan, and they were like, you've got your skull is sort of thicker than, or denser than a normal skull. If you had a lot of knocks on the head, I was like, a couple. And they were like, well, I think you're gonna have to call it a day. So it was one of those things where I, as you would have done all the way through, I played rugby since I was 5 years old, and wanted to be a professional rugby player.
Identity.
It was completely my identity, and I was the rugby player that goes out on a Saturday night and drinks 15 pints and one of the lads, and it was a big part of who I was, and it felt like it was sort of stripped away in an instant almost, and that's incredibly difficult, because when you spent so long developing and growing into that role, it changes who you are, because you're adapting to be the man, to be the person that you either project in, or that your coach wants you to be, or that the fans want you to be, or whatever that is. and to suddenly then lose that or feel like that's taken from you almost is a tough thing. And I think mentally went through some dark sort of days for a decent period after that, where it was a lot of self-reflection and sort of trying to figure out who I really am, taken away from the athlete side of things, taken away from the rugby side of things.
Because that can mask a lot, can't it? When you're involved in that, and like you say, you feel like the man, you feel like you have such a purpose, and then like it's taken away from you like that, and again you have to like recenter and readjust, don't you?
Yeah, and especially I was an aggressive, sort of horrible rugby player. I was sort of person put my head where most people wouldn't put their feet, and I'll dive into anything, and a bit of a scrapper and that sort of thing. And I think I went through a bit of a stage for a couple of months where I was going out in town and getting into trouble and just trying to prove that I could still be that guy, even though I wasn't allowed to be that guy. And it was just a bit of a vicious cycle. It wasn't a great mental space for me to be in, and I was incredibly lucky that I was training in a gym at the time that had just started this thing called CrossFit, which was, nobody had really heard of it back in sort of 2011. Most people have heard of it now, because people that love CrossFit just talk about it constantly and bore and chew everyone's ears off. But I was lucky that I sort of fell into that. I was very strong and powerful from my rugby background. I was relatively fit. I had no gymnastics skill whatsoever, but I got away with it because it was early doors and there wasn't many good people around. And I managed to compete to quite a high level in that. I managed to qualify for the CrossFit Games in 2021, I think. I was the first Welshman to do that, which was cool. It's a cool experience. And in the interim between those periods, I set up a CrossFit gym, had my own nutrition company, which I set up with some insurance money that I got from the rugby side of things. And so I've done a couple of things along the way, and we're sitting in a bar that I've built and we've sort of set up in the last 6 months or so.
I was going to say, we are filming on the river.
On the river,
which is your bar that you've set up fairly recently, just by the Principality. So if anyone does want to come on down,
10% off Cardiff City fans as well.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Oh, there we are. You talk about the retirement from rugby due to health issues. I know you've mentioned it briefly there, but like, how did you feel when you knew you had to retire and you knew you had to sort of go elsewhere? And again, you've spoke about it a little bit, but how did you actually go about flipping that script mentally? Because I know you said you went from, feeling sorry for yourself or things like that, and then you flipped it. But how do you actually go about doing that? Because that's much easier said than done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a process, right? It's not something where it's just flicking a switch. Yeah. I think if there was a magic pill to take or something where it was just snap out of it, then it'd be great. That'd be a nice place to be. But unfortunately, it's not. It was something where I had to go through some self-discovery, and I had to sort of reinvent myself a little bit. I think, like I said, a big part of it was that I was training in this space where I could be competitive elsewhere. And I've always been competitive. I was like, if we're playing Monopoly with the family, I want to win. If we're do literally anything, it was like always had to win. And it was more like I hated losing than I loved winning, if that makes sense. So being around in a CrossFit gym or whatever that might have been, I boxed to a high level as a kid growing up and stuff. But being in that competitive environment, that was a new thing for me, a new challenge for me. I very much, we spoke about before we started filming, I'm very much somebody that's like, if I decide to get into something, I'll go all in on it, and I just sort of used that as a bit of a muse for me to just be like, right, okay, I'm going to go, this is going to be my thing and I'm going to be the best at it. And I enjoyed the fact that I wasn't great and that I was starting at the bottom of the ladder. I always loved training. I always loved the physical side of the training with rugby. So that wasn't an issue in terms of going in and putting in the time and putting in the effort. But what I really liked was the progression. And I think for me, the big thing, and I'd say this to anybody that goes through something that's a life-changing situation or an identity crisis, is having something that you can put some time and effort into and see some progress, no matter how small, is so inspirational, and that can compound massively positively. So waking up and saying, right, okay, today I'm really bad at this, and this, but I'm going to work on it. And then next week, I've seen I'm a little bit better at that. That little bit of actualization and seeing improvements is what I sort of strive for personally. And I think that got me out of bed in the morning. It's like, okay, cool, today I get to get better at something. And seeing improvements was that's what sort of really flipped the script for me.
Do you think, like for me, there's like when I got injured or whenever you face a setback and your goals like have to change, and for me there has to be like an element of like swallow my pride a little bit, because I think we tell ourselves this story of like, oh, we want to get here, and we set our clear goals and how we're going to achieve them, but when that goal isn't then possible anymore, like you can't then keep being attached to that goal because it isn't there anymore. Like for me now, like I can't play, so I can't keep that identity anymore. It has to change, and
you've got to reframe it.
You have to do that, but to do that you have to just admit and accept that you just can't do the things, or you can't achieve the goals that you set out to, and that's okay. But like, because we train ourselves to want that goal so much, we also train ourselves then to think it's not okay when we can't achieve it. Do you know what I mean? And I guess listening to you there, it's like you did like you say, you reframed it so that you weren't still chasing this identity that you'd sold yourself before, if that makes any sense.
I think that you've got to it's something I talk to my athletes about. I coach, some high level sort of CrossFit athletes, high rocks athletes, things like that. And I think one of the things I talk to them a lot about is you've got to be brutally honest with yourself, in your own ability, in your own limitations, and that comes, full circle to what you're saying there. When you're competitive, and it might be that I know that I can do this amount of work. And if I aim for this time on a run, or I aim for this time on a workout, and I know I'm capable of that, then that becomes a tangible goal and something that can really inspire you and drive you. If you're not honest with yourself, and that then becomes an unachievable goal, it can massively demoralize you, and it can set you back massively. And you can turn around and go, there's only so much fake it till you make it you can do. There's only so much you can say, oh yeah, I'm gonna break the world record tomorrow, when you're 5 minutes off it, and you're like, well, that just becomes an uninspiring cycle. And like you're saying there, I think you need to reframe that, but that doesn't necessarily mean give up on the long-term goal. So from your point of view, the long-term goal could be,
it's still the same,
but it becomes, right, okay, I need to break this down now into something that, what can I do this week that gets me better next week, which gets me better next month, which sets me up for the best chance of success, right? And we had this thing where, I say to all my athletes, it's like a little mantra that I use, because I only use the last line of it, but the whole thing is more is not better, better is better. And I focus on that so much, because it's like just getting better, just doing that little thing better every day gives you the best opportunity to get to where you want to get to. And if you can turn around and say, right, today for you, if I'm rehabbing as well as I can possibly do, not doing too much, because it's easy to do too much, and you'll have definitely been there and done this. I know you'll have done it probably 10 times over, where you've overdone it, because you're like, I'm going to out rehab everyone, and then tomorrow you can't walk.
You're the king of rehab,
exactly.
Then I can't walk.
And now I'm broken, and feel even worse. Right? But actually, if you just do the best you can, which is listening to what you're told, do that to the best of your ability, then focus on the recovery from that session, and do your massage, sauna, rehab, ice bath, whatever it is your protocol is, so I can come back the next day and get better again. Then what you're actually then doing is giving yourself the best chance to be 6 weeks along instead of 4 weeks along, to then get back on the grass 2-3 weeks earlier, to then get back to where you were or better than where you were before. And I think reframing is a massively important thing, to break down those goals into small but achievable things. And I think nobody's got, that I know or we'll know in the sporting world, very few people have got issues setting lofty goals. Most people, their issues are they set these goals that are really, really far away, but they haven't set out the plan and reverse engineered how they're going to get there. And I think, I would never say to people you can't do something. Obviously in my case, you can't play tomorrow, but that doesn't mean you can't then get where you want to get to in a year's time. For me, I was never going to play rugby again, so I had to reframe and change that mentality. But I would say, okay, I'm going to start here. My goals were still lofty. I want to get to the CrossFit Games, and nobody in Wales had ever done that before. So what do I need to do tomorrow? to get me there? What do I need to do in a month's time? What do I need to be able to do in 6 months' time to sort of get along that way and just start taking one step at a time in the right direction?
Yeah. The last thing on that, I think, like, for me in this process, something that I suppose is a quote I might have seen a while ago, but it's a reassuring thought to me, is that, like, your life happens for you, not to you, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Very stoic.
Yeah. So I think it's part of a bigger quote, but I like that part of it. And it's very easy when you have an event like you did, or like I have, to become a victim of it, and to feel hard done by and all these things. But if you can reframe it, this is going to happen, for you. It's in aid of your life and your career. Then I think it's a much more bearable task, rather than like I say, becoming a victim of it.
Yeah, I think it's Marcus Aurelius and a lot of the old Stoics, Epictetus and people like that. They turn around and then they were very much anti-victim mentality about everything. Now these are people who live in much harsher times than what we were, and deep thinkers. But it was very much, you are not what you do. You're not what happens to you. You're how you react to it. Yeah. And I always say to people, I do say to people, it's like, it's not what happens. It's about how you react. Mm-hmm. And bad stuff doesn't happen to you. Bad stuff just happens. Mm-hmm. Bad stuff happens all around. And
it's how you perceive it.
How you perceive it, how you frame it, using the term reframing again. But it's like, nobody's going to be able to convince you that, getting your knee snapped is a good thing. Mm-hmm. And you're like, but it's the best thing that'll ever happen to you. But what it will allow you to do is allowed you to set this up. Mm-hmm. It's allowed you to think deeply in another way. It's allowed you to focus on another aspect of your life and add a layer to your character, which will undoubtedly make you a better character and potentially a better footballer, a better coach, a better manager, or whatever it is you want to go into at later dates, because of the experiences and the conversations that you've had that you wouldn't have had if you were playing them. And gratitude, I think, is an overused term, but I think you do need to look at things with that lens sometimes and think, okay, I'm not happy that this happened, but I'm really happy for some of the opportunities I got because of that. Mm-hmm. In terms of with myself, if I hadn't have had this eye socket fracture, I could have, maybe not now, I'm 37, probably just be finished playing now. I was playing in the front row, so we tend to last a little bit longer.
Don't ask me, I'm not a rugby guy.
I'm one of those ones that bang their head in the middle.
They all do that.
Yeah, they all do that, yeah. But I would have probably carried on playing and made a little bit of money and done okay out of it, and that would have been the end of that chapter. Yeah. But for me, it led to me setting up a nutrition company, owning my own gym, helping hundreds if not thousands of people that came in through my gym and coaching them up and getting some really cool friends and interactions and stories with those guys. Eventually getting to the CrossFit Games, which was a really cool experience, and getting to go and compete in Madison, Wisconsin, and I've travelled all over the world. I Competed in China and competed in Norway, I competed in Australia, I've competed in these, and I never would have done any of those things. So you hear people say all the time, oh, it's the best thing that ever happened to me, and they say it with this sort of, it's so cliche, but things can be, they can be, everything can have a silver lining if you frame it right, and you still got to work hard and put all your eggs in that basket, but the basket's there for you.
Yeah, it's up to us, isn't it? Yeah. When you reached out to me, you mentioned that you have quite a big passion for mental health, and I've obviously followed some of your social media stuff as well. Why is it that you care about mental health, and also why do you advocate it the way you do on social media and things like that? Yeah,
it's interesting. Unfortunately I've lost 3 friends in my life to suicide, which is it's such a tragic thing. One this year, one when I was back in university, and one sort of in between there, sort of 10, 15 years ago, something in that region. And it's such a strange thing to go through, because you feel terrible, but you feel guilty for feeling terrible because they're going through it, or their families, or they're very, very close friends, or I was very close to one of them and friends with the other 2. And you think, every time you think, oh, what could I have done? It's such a human thing to make it about you. Oh, what could I have done this? Could I have done that? And you think, stop being so selfish. It's not about what you could have done. It's about what this person was going through. And I think, you know, two of these examples had kids. One of them was happily married. And you think, at what point must it have got so bad that you think that leaving this world would be a better option for everybody else around you? And I find it just such a scary thought. You know, I've had struggles myself when I went through the issue with retiring from rugby. Had some dark days, and I think it's something that I see a lot more of now on social media, and it's become a lot more acceptable to talk about mental health. But I don't think, well, it's not fixing the issue, because the numbers are still depressingly increasing. So the fact that we can openly talk about mental health is great, but it's not affecting things positively. It's not changing anything. And I think that one of the reasons that I do some of the things that I do, so at the moment I'm doing a burpee challenge where every day, so day 1 was my birthday back in October, I'll do 1 burpee, day 2 I'll do 2, day 3 I'll do 3. I think today's 46 or 47 I've got to do, but it'll go up to 365, which is doing 365 burpees in a day is in one sitting, in one go, is like hard, but not impossible by any stretch. But the volume of that, the last 3 months of that, I'm going to be doing over 250 burpees every day. Next day do 251, next day up to 365. It's going to get really grueling physically and massively mentally, and I'm filming that every day and putting it on Instagram. And the reason I'm doing that rather than just talking about mental health is I'm just trying to raise awareness in a way that resonates with people in my circle, in their health and fitness circle. It's that I'm doing something that I don't want to do, because nobody wants to do 300 burpees, and I've got no doubt that my body's going to be wrecked by the time I get to the end of it. And it's going to put myself through some mentally challenging times, and allow myself to think, you know, no matter how hard this gets, it's nowhere near as hard as what these people have gone through. And I'm just hoping it'll get somebody, it'll put them through that. When they're having a bad day, they can watch that and go, fucking hell, that's impressive, or that's something to talk about, or that's something I can take my mind off something. Because I think we haven't figured out as men, and it is a male issue, male mental health. Like, you know, you're 4 in every 5 suicides is a man, and the majority of those are in the age range of sort of 35 to 55, is that middle-aged sort of bracket. It's a very isolated demographic, and I think for whatever reason masculinity is becoming demonized slightly. And I think that we need to figure out what's causing the issue, and I'm not bright enough to do that. But what I can do is do something that hurts and get people talking about it, and hopefully somebody bright can watch that and go, oh, I know what the problem is, and go out and try and fix it. But until we know, I'm just putting my flag in the sand, really.
That's the thing, even for me, like, I'm not claiming that I know enough to solve anyone's problems, because it's quite tough. It's such a big issue that I don't think not one person can know the answer and fix it. And
it'd be unique to other people, everyone else as well.
Yeah, but what we can do is like, for me, like you say, like, if one person takes something from one of your videos, then that's an impact, and like that's all we can really control. And I've had people, like, you reached out, or I've had people send me messages, and I didn't realise that I could have that impact. I was doing it really because I cared about it, and I thought I could maybe have a bit of an impact, or I'm just going to do it and put it out there. And then you get messages off people, and you think, wow, like, even if it's 3 or 4, that's better than none, isn't it? And
massive.
And people might see that and do something similar themselves, and then they might do something. Spread
it forward. Yeah. And like you say, if those 3 or 4 people, I'm not suggesting that they're going through anything near as bad as that, but they could be.
Yeah, exactly.
And if one of those people ends up not making a decision that, you know, nobody wants them to make because of anything that you've done, then what an amazing achievement. You know, that's a cool thing for anyone to do. And if you turn around to me and said you had to do 365 burpees every day for the rest of your life, but it meant that, you know, you're not going to lose another friend, I'd do it tomorrow.
Give it a go.
Yeah, I'd try my best.
It seems you have quite a lot of responsibilities, like working, business-wise. How does that, you know, benefit you as a person, having, you know, different responsibilities and different things you have to take care of, I suppose?
Yeah, I think I'm not diagnosed in this in any way, shape or form, because it wasn't a thing when I was growing up really, but I'm almost definitely ADHD. And I think I'm the sort of person that, like, I like having loads of different things going on. I think I'm the sort of person that's like, I can throw myself all into something very, very easily, but then if for whatever reason there's something else and shiny and new over there, I'll throw myself all into that as well. And I think that's materialized itself in having multiple aspects to my life, whether or not that's training, coaching, running the bar, developing properties, or whatever that is. I think, you know, the ability to jump from one thing to the other thing it's a blessing and a curse, because you'll sometimes drop the ball on something over here because you've just been distracted by something else over here, but it allows you to be productive in different aspects. And I think it keeps me mentally engaged. There's always something for me to be doing that's productive and positive, because otherwise it could be so easy to just do a 9 to 5 and then I'd just be sat there doom scrolling on my phone for the rest of the evening, playing PlayStation or whatever it is people do now, and I'll just be like, okay, well, I'm not doing this, I'm going to do some programming. I'm not doing this, I'm going to do a client call. I'm not doing this, I'm going to check down the bar and make sure that's all going well, or whatever it is. And I think that it gives me a sense of purpose. And sort of like I touched on earlier, like I always want to do the best, whatever it is I'm doing, I want to do the best at that. And it's hard to do that if you don't allow yourself to go all in on it sometimes, you know.
It is a fine balance, because like doing this has helped me so much in terms of switching off, and also just filling my spare time, because even say at the start, like I can't go home and go to the gym. I can't do those little outlets that I would do when I'm fit. Even like going out and seeing a friend when I'm on crutches and stuff, you can't do those things, and this has helped me so much in terms of switching my mind off. But then there's like a fine balance, because you can get like too into it, too engaged, and you end up spending all your time
just editing
too busy,
videos,
and then you don't have the time to relax, and like sometimes then I have to like rein it back a little bit and then go again. But like my point is, it's a fine balance, isn't it? It's not it can have a reverse effect if you go like too far.
Yeah, and I think that depends on how either importance, probably not the right term, but how much you enjoy what you're doing. You know, so like I it's a weird thing, but I genuinely enjoy writing training programs for people, because I like that challenge. It's a bit like doing a Sudoku or something. You know, like figuring out problem solving. Okay, so this person needs to get stronger in this lift, and this lift without getting worse at X, Y, and Z. How can I solve that problem and put that sort of that program together? So, you know, I'll switch off doing that, if you know what I mean. That'll be almost relaxing for me. But you need to have that, whatever it is, and for you that could be editing video. But if that's then, as soon as that starts to feel like a chore, for me, I can okay, let's have a look at something else, or chill, or you know, play bloody Football Manager or whatever it is. You know, just have 5 minutes, chuck something on Netflix. And I suppose that the problem, you know, hear your thoughts on this, but when you would have had a much more physical outlay, you know, back before you got injured, you'd say you go down the gym. How often were you doing that in terms of just as socially outside of what you're doing in football training?
Obviously we do most gym white stuff in football, but then, you know, like I'm sort of talking, I know you're not feeling great, you're feeling a bit stressed out or whatever, then like those things are available to you. Like I can go and see Alex, go and play a bit of snooker, go to the gym, go meet a friend who I haven't seen in a while, and like some of those things then they do just get taken away when
you're immobile. Yeah,
when you're immobile, or even when like you just can't physically do those things, I suppose. So that's when you do rely on the other ventures and other passions, but like you say, it's about
you got to find that balance. And I think, like, you'll be lucky and unlucky in equal aspects, in that you'll have made a lot of friends in football that have been in similar situations to you, that you can talk to and you can lean on their experience and everything else. But you then also don't want to submerge yourself in that world, because you're constantly looking at what you can't be doing as well, and that can get frustrating, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's not been easy. You mean like looking at and sort of being too far involved in it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's tough. It's like I found that problem a little bit with even watching the games recently or being around the boys. Like, it's so nice to be involved. You don't want to remove yourself completely.
No, you can't.
But you do get that like eagerness much more then, and you have to rein that back. You want to find balance, because you want to be motivated in the gym. You want to be motivated to do your rehab. You want to be close enough to like where you do get the buzz. But at the same time, like you said, it's not easy being around them.
It's hard, yeah. I think I look back to many years ago when I was playing rugby as well, and it'd be interesting being honest, like if I was injured or not picked or whatever, you don't want to see the guys not play well or not win, but you almost think, guy in my position, I wouldn't mind him having a stinker every now and again. Like, do you ever think that? Do you think the guy's doing well this season, aren't they? Which is, and you must be thinking, if I was playing, I could have done this, or I could have this, I would have had these opportunities and all that sort of stuff. It's hard. I
think definitely when you're younger, like it's a tough balance to get. Like, we all players are so eager to play and do well and progress our careers, but I think like it's a dangerous path to go down, because then like we've all been around situations where players are not playing. Like you said, they'd probably rather the team like not do as good, because then they like get a chance to play. But then when you play, you're going to be feeling the pressure more. Then I think like
it becomes a toxic environment.
It becomes toxic very quickly. And I think like it's not sustainable. Like you say, you might end up playing then and doing really well because the team have lost. But then like, I don't think it's sustainable thinking that way, I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's not helpful in any way. I was probably, when I was, because I was...
No, but it's human, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely human.
We all want to progress.
And I was very much on the fringe of, I played professional rugby, but I played most of my stuff on what we call permit, which was down in the Premiership rather than playing in regional rugby. So you're constantly like, oh, how did they get on? And the first thing would be like, how did he play? And you're like, oh, he didn't play well. Okay, good. I might be in next week. God, you know what I mean? Because you're training with them every day, but you're not there in the games and all that sort of stuff, because you're off playing for a lower level team, a bit like going out on loan and stuff, I suppose. So yeah, it's funny. It's human nature, but I think it's interesting. Like, obviously, the guys that'll be listening to this and watching this, the majority of people would have. Fans or whatever you want to call it would have come from Cardiff City and from your background, and then that reach will grow. And I think it'd be interesting for them to know sort of a bit about you and where you're at mentally with that side of things. Yeah,
it's obviously tough. Like, I mean, it's like I say, it is tough football because you become friends with all these people, but we're all so competitive, like you say. So yes, it's a tough balance to get. But I think you do get it over time. Like, I think after like process of I guess elimination, like that doesn't work for very long, and I think we've all probably done it when we were younger or whatever, or maybe fall into that trap now and again, but I don't think it's probably best for our well-being, because you're wishing bad on anyone, it doesn't exactly do you much good, is it?
Absolutely. I think like you've got to control what you can control, isn't it? And it's like do the best that you can, going back to what I was saying earlier. It's like, and that's the same as when you set foot in the field. If you play as well as you can possibly play, you make it much harder for you to get dropped. And that's what you can focus on. It's with me back in the rugby days, it was interesting. I had a coach that absolutely loved me, was like, you're going to be the next best thing, come follow me, and a couple of years time you're going to be captain. I was young when I signed my first contract and everything, and next year he got sacked. And if he had gone to Wasps or somewhere in England or somewhere like that, I'd have probably gone with him. He ended up going to bloody Hong Kong, which was no good for me. And the next coach comes in and I didn't suit the way that he plays, and I think that's mentally is a hard thing, but you've got to adapt. And for me it was like, okay, he wanted me to be this big cannonball of a guy. I was a smaller front row forward that was quite mobile. I was like, okay, I need to put some weight on, and I need to get more aggressive, and I need to put my head even further down there. And then I think that's a sign of, again, reframing, like we talked about earlier. Because obviously in your time now, you're out on loan last season, but you've been in and around the first team squad for 3 or 4 years now. And so you've seen, especially Cardiff City, you've seen 19 coaches in the last 3 years. So how do you find that in dealing with different personalities, different coaches, and how that reflects on your game?
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, like you say, different coaches can see the game completely differently. And their staff that they bring with them might, coach differently or treat you differently or whatever. Like, especially when you go on loan, because that then you've got even more uncertainty, or you've got an even different environment, because you're not only you have different coach, different players.
Yeah, you don't know anyone. Yeah.
Different surroundings, different town you're living in. You're 4 hours away from home, or in Scotland I was 10 hours away from home. Or I can't go home. So like, that all adds to it. Do you know what I mean? The coaching side in particular, I think we have to sort of train ourselves to adapt. Otherwise, you don't play, and that's at
the end of the day, they're picking a team, isn't it?
Exactly, and you're only hurting yourself then if you're being stubborn in that aspect. So yeah, I've definitely gone on loan, and has helped with that as well. Like, just finding ways to be yourself, but also adapting to what a coach might want. Do you know what I mean? Because I think if you go too far that way, you might become a bit robotic, and you might lose what makes you. But yeah, it's definitely, and that's definitely a skill. It's not easy. It's a skill to be able to fit into a way that a coach wants you to play or train, and then also like still retain the unique bits and the bits that make you. And again, that's a skill.
That's what got you where you got there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not easy. It's definitely something that you have to develop and also just get the experience, get the reps, because it's impossible if you don't go. Some players might have the same coach their whole career and stay the same place, but for 99% of players, that's not the case.
Certainly not in the modern game.
No, and after going places, maybe 2-3 times, me probably more, it's definitely benefited me. Obviously, some drawbacks to that you don't have the consistency, but then, I definitely learned a lot from having to adapt and find ways of always being me as well, and not becoming too robotic, like I said.
Yeah, sure.
Right, I asked you to sort of come prepared with a question for me.
Yeah, but it's similar to when you asked me, actually. Yeah. I was going to say, like, obviously it was inspired by the injury and everything else, but what made you think about doing this in general? Was it something, have you had issues or had something sort of from a mental health side of things, or is it something that you experienced because of the injury that you thought, to go in a little bit deeper with it,
Yeah, I think I think in football and in life in general, like, something that's become like really evident to me is that like everyone has their stuff going on, like everyone, like people you don't think people you think have it all sorted out. People might look at you and think you have all sorted out, or me and think, oh yeah, he's got his stuff together, but like everyone has their stuff, and that's become like pretty evident to me, I think, especially in the last few years, where I've gone up different places, people with different backgrounds, different ages. Everyone has, when you get to know people properly, you get to know people deeper, you realise everyone has their stuff. And I think for me personally, like, I've gone through ups and downs in terms of like, even like 15, 16, I had quite a lot of like niggly injuries and nothing major, but like that was difficult for someone quite young who thought I'm a deep thinker, so I thought a lot of the time. When you're that young, sometimes you don't know what to think or where to look, or so navigating that was tough. And then moved out of home from at 16, which is not common for like a lot of people. Navigated that, and like you have your challenges with that in terms of being on your own, away from family. I've been a lot of places like in the last 4 years and not seeing friends, not seeing family, so that's had its challenges as well. I wouldn't say there's anything in particular that's been like a big event that's like caused me to not feel a certain way, but I think that's kind of the point, is that like it's all relative. Like, it's life, isn't it? It's life, but it's all relative. Like everyone, it doesn't matter how big the event or how big your struggle is, everyone feels struggle, because like I say, it's all relative. And I think like that's become so clear to me, and I've just wanted to do something for a while that is worthwhile. Like there's a lot of things that I could do or try and venture into, but I always wanted to make sure that I really cared about it and it was worthwhile. And I've thought about this idea for a few years, but I only really started to put into into motion last year, and then I think like once I got the taste of it and I started putting the pieces together and started doing the branding and some of that stuff, like it started and it started just I'm gonna record a video and post it online, and then like if people want to watch it, brilliantly, and then that is sort of like changed. I'm gonna edit it, I'm gonna try and create a brand for it, and that's why the brand isn't me, it's just a quick convo, which is it's almost an initiative or a movement or a project, hopefully, that can somewhere down the line, people can look at, and it's going to be hopefully a base of work that people can look at and think, that made a difference. And that's been the aim for me, really. And again, it is because of some stuff I've gone through, but it's also from observing other people and just seeing and speaking to people over a number of years and understanding, like I said, everyone has this stuff, and I think if I can make a difference in some way, that might not be me saying anything in particular, it might be people who I speak to, or even just people have a laugh out of a clip or something like that. That's my sort of job done. So
yeah, it's interesting. There's two things on that. Is like, firstly, when you're saying about everybody having their stuff, and it's like, touched on it earlier with a couple of friends of mine passing away, and not one of them would have been the guy in I think might have been Norwich City. They did that video where which was really like powerful, where there's one guy talking to the other guy, and the other guy seemed really, really quiet, and it was actually the guy that was talking all the time that ended up committing suicide. And that's resonated so much with me, is that of all three of these guys that I'm talking about were all life of the party, the first person in, giving it the big one, and nobody would have known. They were all sort of deep thinkers, and they all had their demons, and they talked deeply about things, but very, very much never projected any sort of issue. And I think, especially when you're coming from a sporting background, it's a man's game where you're projecting, like I talked about from my rugby side, but the same with you guys, is like, people are fighting for positions, they're fighting for livelihoods and wages, and they want to be the best of the best, and it creates a potential persona for people where they're not going to talk or show any weakness or try what they consider to be weakness. I think that's important to note, is that it's not always the people that you think are struggling. And I think the second point was onto you saying that you've always been a bit of a deep thinker and stuff like that, and I think that can be something that's always in our circles, again, sort of not frowned upon, but always looked a little bit weird. Everyone sort of gives you a little bit of
hold you back.
It's sort of like, well, gosh, he's a bit deep, and he takes it all a bit seriously, or whatever it is. But in reality, those, in my experience, those are the guys that make the best, certainly coaches and managers, and potentially players as well, because they can empathise with other people. They can actually put themselves in other people's shoes, which is, emotional intelligence is not that common. So being able to feel things and understand things and see things from other people's point of view is a massive part of management and captaincy. Being able to put your arm around somebody when they need it, but also that same person might need a kick up the arse another day, and it's not always the same thing for the same people all the time. It's reading that room and reading those conversations and the body language and everything else. And I think the more sort of deep thinkers that we have in places where they wouldn't normally have been able to step to the fore, I think is only going to be a positive. I think I think it's great what you're doing, and I think that's why I reached out and messaged you in the first place. I think not just because as a City fan and being gutted for you for the injury, but also just say, like, I think it's good what you're doing, why you're doing it, and I think it's a pleasure being part of it.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much. Really enjoyed that.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.